The gentlelady from Florida.
Well, thank you so much. I want to thank my friend and colleague and chair of the Republican Women's Policy Committee, Congresswoman Renee Elmers, for leading the charge on this special order so that we can discuss issues of national security. And as we've heard, Madam Speaker, and will continue to hear tonight, there is no shortage of national security threats that are facing us today. That's not what should scare us. What should scare us is that the Obama administration has no strategy, no plan in place to address some of the most serious threats that are out there. But perhaps the most pressing issue currently facing U.S. national security and the security of our friend and ally, really, the democratic Jewish state of Israel, and indeed global security, is a nuclear-armed Iran. And if we want to discuss national security threats, we can spend all day discussing the ones the administration just set into motion when it and the rest of the P5+1 nations announced this nuclear agreement with Iran. Let's set aside for a moment, Madam Speaker, the fact that the administration just guaranteed that Iran will become a nuclear threshold state as a result of this deal. And we can all set our timers on when that first Iranian bomb will be produced, thanks to this weak and dangerous deal. Let's focus on the fact that the administration just guaranteed that the Iranian regime's billions of dollars that it's going to have to fill its coffers to underwrite its support for terror, aimed at the U.S. and aimed at our interests around the world, and especially our ally, the democratic Jewish state of Israel. Remember, this is the same regime that was responsible for building and providing the vast majority of roadside bombs that killed and injured of our brave men and women who served valiantly in Iraq. It is the same regime that has propped up the murderous Assad regime in Syria, that supports the Shiite militias, all of which contributed greatly to the rise of the Sunni terror group ISIL, which has now become one of the greatest threats to U.S. national security as well. This regime is responsible for the bombing of the U.S. Marine barracks and the U.S. embassy bombings in Beirut, and continues to support Hezbollah and Hamas as the terror groups that target Israel. And if this terrifying scenario wasn't bad enough, Madam Speaker, the Obama administration has included in this sweetheart of a deal for the Iranian regime, lifting all UN Security Council resolutions, including the arms embargo. And that won't even last the duration of the deal, but it will be only in 5 years. Madam Speaker, what has Iran done to deserve a lifting of the arms embargo, the lifting of sanctions against its ballistic missile program, its support for terror? Iran, in fact, continues to stoke sectarian violence, foments instability in the Middle East, flexing its muscles with the arms and military equipment that it already has. Now we're prepared to lift the arms embargo on that murderous regime, lift the restrictions in place on its ballistic missile program, the most expansive program out of any country in the region. What kind of message did we just send to our partners in the region who fear Iran's hegemonic ambitions? We just allowed their most feared enemy to become a nuclear state, to have access to have even more money to support its illicit activities, and to bolster its conventional weapons and ballistic missile program. Talk about threats to our national security, Madam Speaker. Wow. This nuclear deal that the Obama administration announced this morning just guaranteed an all-out conventional and nuclear arms race that very well could lead to what the president claimed he was trying to avoid, a war. Whether it's Iran or whether it's Cuba, as Ms. Black of Tennessee pointed out, President Obama is going legacy shopping. I fear that Israel will be next on Obama's legacy shopping list. I worry that President Obama will force Israel to accept a bad peace deal with the Palestinians. Madam Speaker, let's shut down Obama's legacy store. We just can't afford it. Thank you, Ms. Elmers. Thank you very much for your leadership on this national security threat. Thank you, Madam.
The gentlelady yields back.